demo of RESTpoint. On this demo, we're going to take a look at error responses. In our last demo, we learned how we could take a data type and apply it to our stock resource. Now we're going to show how you can start adding in some error responses. So let's go to our paths, and let's say we want to add, there's two different types of errors we can add in. We can add an error which applies to all the paths, which makes it convenient. And then you can also add in, for a certain request, let's say get or something. So let's do a quick example of each. So I'm going to come in and say, this is our common, let's say we'll call this a common errors. And this says applies to all paths. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to have a 500 error. And I'm going to say, whoops, an error has an unexpected error has occurred. We are looking into it. So that's the description that will go into your documentation. And if what we want the actual error message to say is, we'll keep that the same way for now. This is called script, and we can bring in other dynamic information, but for now we'll just put a straight message in. So I'm going to add that error response. And then I'm going to create one more error message, and that's for, so let's say we're find specific resource error. And this applies to finding a resource by ID. Applies to get, delete, and no, that's by ID. And we'll also add in here put. Just forgot. So one thing that applies to all of them is a 404, and I'm going to call this a string, and I'm going to say I could not find the specified resource. And I'm going to do the same thing here. We'll get into the script part later, but for now, let's say we couldn't find the specified resource. And I'm going to add that resource. So I'm going to come over to my path, and let's say we're going to deal with stock here. So I'm going to add my common errors, which applies to all the actions. And then for the get, since we're saying get on stocks, we're not looking for an individual ID. For the delete, I'll add in my specific error here. And then for the get, I'm going to add my specific error here. And I'm going to come over here and put add in here. Okay, so now when we come here to generate the Open API, let's take a look at what that looks like now. So now you'll see before nothing has error responses. If we come down to our stocks, which is where we applied it, you'll see there's our 500, and we can say, whoops, the expected error occurred. There isn't on the get, but now on the per ID, you'll see we have a 404, could not find, 404, could not find. So that shows that our messages are now getting into the document. Now let's go, and I'm going to do a quick try of the API here. Let's go try and get a stock with a wrong ID. Now we know in our stocks, in our database, we only have 1, 2, 3 IDs, 1, 2, and 3. So now we know what to ask for to get that error to occur. So I'm going to say try the API, and let's go down to our stocks, and I'm going to try the get stocks by ID, and let's say try it out, and I'm going to say I'm going to go get stock 22. We know that doesn't exist, but I'm going to execute this, and you'll see now we could not find the specified resource, 404. So you'll see if you want to try this, you do a curl, and then there you go. It gives out the message. So if I come back to my API design, to show you a quick example, I can come back of the script, and we won't get into it a lot this time, but just to show there's some other things we can use. So object is really the request object that's passed in. So if I said $object ID, I can put a little bracket around that. And now that applies to the 404. So when I do an update, now we should see the error message will tell us the ID that we want it to access. So if I come back down on my stock ID, I'm going to do try it out. Again, we'll do 22, hit execute, and you'll see now we get could not find specified resource 22. So that shows you a little example of how we can start using scripting. And once we get into the low-code business logic, you'll see where that can get more powerful. And with the error responses as well, on further demos, we'll show how you can even use data types when you want to have actual objects returned as opposed to just a string message. So that will come in future demos. So for now, that concludes this demo where we just wanted to show how your next iteration could start now adding in error responses to your documentation and even error messages coming up through your prototypes. Thank you.